Can we discover without having faith, the existence within us of our soul, and that of an immortal soul? The Catholic Church responds to this: yes, we can. Our minds are able to discover certain aspects that are essential to faith, so it also makes them an article of faith. However, our intelligence asks ourselves, because we are supposed to be adults and we have to be intelligent, with ourselves, and to make the effort to extrapolate for ourselves individually. So there is a deep way that is done, according to Aristotle, a realist philosopher, for example. He started out from the experience and he said, we see within ourselves 3 degrees of life: a degree of biological life, our palpable body with these growth faculties, respiration, nutrition, reproduction. This body, we can clearly perceive that it is corruptible, it dies with death. Secondly, we see within us a sensitive life, which is in common with animals and whose seat is the brain, obviously. If the brain is affected, our sensitive life may well disappear. So according to Aristotle, if this sensitive life is linked to the brain, it is because when the brain dies, it will also disappear. But we note beyond this sensitive life, there is always for object, sensitive things, such as seeing this object. It is a material object, so the image is sensitive, it is in my eye, it passes through the organs, etc. So we notice that there are within us 2 faculties whose object, even if it uses images, is not sensitive. So I will give the following example with intelligence. Imagine, for example, that we want to understand the notion of infinity, an infinite body. It does not exist infinity. Then how? We are trying to figure it out. Very often, we think of it as an immense body, and then we add bits, etc. And so, we imagine that we will add ends without stopping. So it will be infinite. We therefore use an image, an immense body. But beyond this image, we understood the notion of infinity, a being that would have no limit. And that cannot be illustrated. Represented. We can represent a finite body, but we can understand what an infinite body is, without being able to draw it. It is therefore that this understanding, this concept, goes beyond the bodily side, even if he uses it. Let us now take an example, in the other faculty of the mind, the will. When a young man meets a young girl, he will love her because she is beautiful, because she attracts him. So the sensitive affectivity, which is common with animals, comes into play. And then, let's imagine that she has an accident a little later which disfigures her completely, or an illness. Most leave saying, I have no longer any feelings for her. And some are able with their intelligence to say, I will never give up on her, I chose her when she was beautiful for herself. I will stay with her, I will not give up on her. It is intelligence that commands the will to love. A will to love which is a real, solid love. But which is not based upon what we feel, which is based on what we understand. This will therefore, has an object, which is not only the feeling of pleasure, but which is more than that, the understanding that this is of good. Therefore, we have our 2 faculties which go beyond matter, their object is not only material even if it relies upon the help of the brain. Besides, modern science recognizes this a little bit. We human beings find that we don't possess radically new DNA when compared with monkeys. Our brain is sometimes less efficient, but yet, even if there is no DNA of intelligence and will, we find that they exist. We can exercise it, and not the animal which, always, when it understands sensitive things, things which it can imagine. It is from the existence in us of 2 faculties which go beyond matter by their object, therefore what they look at, that Aristotle will say clearly, they are therefore not only material. Their cause, or source, intelligence and will, goes far beyond matter, they come from elsewhere. They are spiritual. And so, since we are a single being, this unified being, bodily, sensitive, spiritual, is unified by a hidden source or cause, which he calls the soul. This soul is able to make our spirit exist. We could imagine it like that. Within our being, like a deep energy, but which is not material, since it does not only exist, a biological life, not only a sensitive life, but also a spiritual life which goes beyond the material side and here, the brain. It means that our soul is not composed of matter and that therefore when the body dies, it survives. This is how Aristotle said that one could discover the immortality of the soul. Obviously, since then, there has been progress. Through the resuscitation experiences of people who have had cardiac arrest, I will say that current philosophy, by observing near-death experiences, confirms the survival of the spiritual soul after death.